So anyway, I'm JD Armstrong with the University of Hawaii Institute for Astronomy. There we go. So one of the first things that I like, this is a cartoon that one of my students found online, and I think it quite epitomizes something that we all know. So I'm surprised more people don't love science. It's so fascinating. The response is, by science, do you mean spending countless hours collecting data and studying dense research articles? Or do you just think that space is pretty? And, you know, no response. I think a lot of people think that space is pretty and get into science because of space is pretty and don't realize the work that is involved. But that doesn't mean that just because there's work involved does not mean that we don't love it. So there are a number of student programs that we have, a number of programs we have in Hawaii. I'm going to talk mostly about the High Star program. We have internships. A lot of students come in to work with astronomers for their senior projects, the Maui Economic Development Board's Women in Technology internship program regularly sends me students. We have Montessori school there that is doing double star research, walk-ins, and the Mauna Kea Scholars program is now expanding from the Big Island. Being from Maui, I'm going to tell you this with a very Maui, tell you about what's going on with a very Maui perspective. So I'm going to focus on the High Star program kind of as a case example. So the goals of the High Star program is that students will develop the skills and knowledge base for doing scientific inquiry and conducting rigorous real-world investigations in astronomy. Students will complete appropriate, rigorous, and real-world empirical research in astronomy for an authentic audience. And students will improve upon oral and written communication skills in order to share their science and develop supporting and collaborative network of peers, mentors, and the general public. Okay, those are the goals. And the High Star program is funded. We should recognize our sponsors. That probably should have been a previous slide, but it's supported by the Air Force Research Labs, Maui Economic Development Board. We get observations from Los Cumbres, and it's run through the University of Hawaii. So the High Star program, it's about 20 students per year. About half of them are returning. Male to female, about 50-50. I think it's actually weighted a little bit in favor of females. Most of the students are public schools. That's something that I think a lot of us realize is important. The private schools tend to, when you see a very high performing students, they often tend to be in private schools in Hawaii. And so being in the public schools is I think, very valuable. The program is basically a one-week course on Oahu, and the students attend lectures, they work on a short-term project, they present their short-term project, and then they begin a long-term project that they will enter in the Science and Engineering Fair. So the Science and Engineering Fair is their way of presenting to an authentic audience. Okay, so this is one of the class of High Stars. You'll notice that there are faculty also in this, including I'm back in the corner there. These are the scientists of the future. So hope that you will see many of them again. It is a gifted and talented program. Now, by gifted and talented, I mean there were at least 4 students with learning disabilities in the entire 10 years of the program. About 30% minority or at-risk students. About a third qualify for lunch assistance. They're low income. And so our definition of gifted and talented is, well, is the student going to really do something? Do they really want to do this? And I heard someone else making a similar comment that the motivation is very important. It's very key. Okay, of the over 24 of the students from the program, a total of about 120 students have gone through the program, counting returning students a second time. About 24 students have attended the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. They've won quite a bit of money in awards at the science fairs and quite a bit of money on scholarships. For example, the two on the left in the upper picture, Thomas is at MIT, Chris is at Yale, Stephanie, who's next to Chris, is also at Yale. Sarah, I can't remember where Sarah went, but she was offered quite a bit of money for college as well. So they're doing quite well. But we always focus on the metric for success being entering the science fair, not winning awards. Yesterday, Frank, I'm not going to pronounce the name because I'll mispronounce it. He commented that astronomy teaches skills that are valuable for other jobs. And the high star students don't always enter the science fair with an astronomy project. We've had environmental science. Sarah on the previous slide did her project on environmental science, math, computer science, biology, a large range of areas. And so we feel that we agree with this assessment that astronomy teaches good research skills that can be applicable to other areas, other jobs. So robotic telescopes, that's why we're here, a lot of why we're here. One analogy I like to use is on the left, this is the Bridgeport Mill at the Institute for Astronomy on Maui. On the right, we also have a spinner CNC mill. So this is our, on the right is our robotic, and on the left is the purely hand tool. Both require a skilled operator. Both can be run by someone who's unskilled, but if they have supervision, they do need supervision. And the CNC mill has some enhanced capability. You can produce multiple parts a lot faster. There's a great deal of efficiency, and there's some and precision that you can get out of the CNC mill. And that's the way I see robotic telescopes, is you need someone who's skilled and to run the telescopes, to run the observatory, and to help the students do the science. But you can get a great enhancement of their accomplishments. So robotic telescopes have the distinct advantages for the high star program. We don't have to keep them up late at night. The students can go to sleep. And so the two in the morning, when you're asking if they want to stay up for Neptune, you don't have to ask that question. Multiple and remote sites. So a lot of our students use data from the Southern Hemisphere because that's where Las Cumbres has more assets, and hey, it's also less, they tend to be less studied. And the process data, Las Cumbres provides the data for high star. It comes through process, flat field, bias dark. So now the students can focus on doing the science. Once they really get hooked on the science, we can go back and mire them through those details. We can also do short observing runs, a few minutes. We can put a 3-minute observation on a telescope. Typically, professional telescopes have been all night. And this is something that John Johnson pointed out to me a number of years ago, is that it was nice to be able to get just part of a night rather than the whole night. Also, fast turnaround. Sometimes we can do observations in an hour, put an observation request in, get them back a few hours later. Some disadvantages is the disconnect to the reality of the data. And Tim Brothers made a comment kind of on that, that he doesn't trust students to use robotic telescopes. I'm hoping I didn't misinterpret that. So we want to get the kids eye-to-eye piece. And we also like to have real-time control of the telescope. That's That's another thing that helps with that. And I also worried about, spoiled astronomers that don't realize how much work really goes into the data. But with all the advantages and disadvantages, the robotic telescopes really have been key to the success of this high-star program. Most of the students that have really gone far have used data from robotic telescopes that they never would have been able to get without the robotics. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of really good projects that work well for the program. One is exoplanets. So this is some students that I was working with. They're able to observe exoplanets, and I don't know about you, but if I've tried to have to schedule an exoplanet transit, but I don't know which body to talk to in order to schedule that. And they cannot always be observed from a specific site or completely just observed from a particular site. And that's why the network is very useful. Another project was asteroids. We can do parallax, rotation, shape determination, but in particular parallax. So does anyone know where the asteroid is in this image? Of course not. Yeah. These 2 images were taken at the same time from 2 different sites. We can actually see the difference in position of the asteroid, and we can measure the distance, and we were able to do that to about 2% error. Okay, and I'll send a shout out to Patrick Wiggins, who helped get me the image from Utah. I think the labeling is reversed though. Anyway, so here are some of the scientists that are working on robotic telescopes. All right. Thank you.
Questions for James? Outside the Hawaii, or just exclusive for the Hawaii students?
We've had a few students from the mainland United States. We have talked about even other countries. It's difficult, but we're open to that. So, yeah.
Do you find your program stimulating interesting discussion about the controversy of observatories occupying the mountaintops?
I don't know if you heard of a student by the name of Mailani Neal. She put together a petition. She's Native Hawaiian. She put together a petition with over 5,000 signatures in favor of TMT.
There you go.
She was a high-star student working on exoplanets. So,
right on.
Yes, it does make a very big impact.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, James. That was really interesting.